Please help me welcome our speaker, the very insightful Margaret Spence. Margaret, the session is all yours.
Great. Thank you for inviting me back to another ELB learning. So I put up my contact information for everyone who wants it before we get started. I will have this also at the end. So I invite you to stay for this entire presentation. I have two great bonuses that we're going to be giving out, some cheat sheets and some guides. And if you have to leave early, you'll also receive the same information from ELB directly. So let's get started. I have a lot of content to cover, so let's get started. Talent development in the AI world. 5 defining roles every talent leader must master to own the age of AI. It's critical that we understand and redefine our role as talent development, HR, and talent management leaders. We cannot sit in the status quo, in the way it's always been, in this is how we did it, this is what we think the process should be. All of the playbooks and procedures that you've written all these years that have served you well until now, we almost need to start dismantling them one by one. So today, I want to give you a new lens of who you need to become. What does that look like for us in talent development? What does that look like for your employees? And what does that look like within the organization? So we are going to talk at 3 levels: for yourself personally, for the teams and people you lead, and then for the organization itself. So we're going to talk at 3 levels throughout this program today. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A, but I also want to make this as engaging as possible. So I would like you to participate in the chat as much as possible as well, because I want you to sort of know within yourselves that you're not alone in the journey of developing talent in the AI world, and that we are all a part of a community, and we have to sort of stick together in that community, because no one that tells you that they know everything about AI, if anyone says, I know everything about AI, I know everything that you're supposed to do, I know how these steps are supposed to look, the honest factor is they're lying. The world of AI is changing by the second, by the millisecond, and the technology is getting better and faster. So for us, we have to stay in the cutting edge. So part of what I would love to do today is go through a mindset shift of who we are, but also shift to who we need to become. So let's get started. I want to talk about women first, but then the entire workforce in general. Um, what I call writing a prompt won't fix this. It's critical for us to understand. Approximately 79% of working women are employed in occupations susceptible to AI disruption or automation. I have shared this data before. I spoke on the main stage at ATD just a month ago, and I shared this data, and everyone was kind of shocked because I don't know that we understand the critical data within the data. So, job susceptibility to AI is the first thing. Gender disparity in the AI impact is the second thing. The third thing is the exposure to automation. So I had a spirited discussion yesterday. In fact, I did a live YouTube video yesterday, and I write on Substack, and I also have these live videos that I do on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And I asked the question, how many people understand that there are 4 types of people in our workforce that will be sort of that we need to address in the rush for AI implementation? We have the people who need to be upskilled, meaning they have a total level of competence right now in their profession. And we need to upskill those people, meaning we need to move them up and to become better users of AI. We also have the people who need to be reskilled because the job and the role that they're in will not be there in 5 years. So we have two categories that are immediately identified. We have people who need to be upskilled, and we have people who need to be reskilled. But the people that we never talk about are the people who are underskilled, the individuals who do not have the basic skills in order to function or to work in the new AI world. And so we have the people who are underskilled, and then we have the people who are unskilled. So let me say that again. For those of us in talent development, we cannot think in one window. Typically, what we do is we think in one window. We've got to upskill and reskill. That's what we're doing. The reality is, you have people in your organization who are at four different levels. You have people who need to be upskilled, you have people who need to be reskilled, you have people who are underskilled, and you have people who are unskilled. That's a whole nother training program and how we put that together. But I want to drop this right here with the data so that we understand what we are working with. So it's not just one thing. We are being hit with four things all at once. So 67% of the global workforce will have some form of AI work disruption, meaning if you have a global workforce, someone in the global workforce will have an AI disruption. I'll give you the example, and the most critical example. Recently, my internet went down. I needed to get something checked. I reached out to my provider, which is Xfinity, and I couldn't get a human on the phone. I got a bot, and the bot gave me all kinds of information and finally said, "You are the problem." Literally, it said, "You have a problem. It is not on our end." And it disconnected the call. Goodbye. It hung up on me. And I was in total shock because I was used to getting a customer service rep, maybe in India or Pakistan or the Philippines or Jamaica or some part of South America. Generally, the person would come on the phone, they'd have an accent. We were biased around that. And we would go, "Oh my God, they have an accent. I want somebody that speaks better English." Right now, those people globally have, many of them have lost their jobs because we have put in AI agents to handle the work that a human used to handle. So let me give you one other data point. In the last 90 days, 304,000 African American women have lost their jobs. Nobody wants to talk about the unemployment data. The unemployment data is showing that AI is currently affecting the workforce. 2 weeks ago, Google decided to lay off 14,000 of their employees that work in Google search engine because they have basically automated it with AI. So the global disruption of talent is coming. And as talent development leaders, we have an obligation to be prepared for the global disruption of talent. So the question that you always ask, that we always ask, and I don't say you lightly, I am in the talent development space. It is a part of the work that I've done for the last 30 years. So the question that I always ask, and the question that we always ask as a community, is how do we inspire, innovate, and empower learning at every level for everyone? And so if we're building learning, this is generally the question that we ask. How do we inspire people? I want you to hear and use a different question, okay? Imagine for a moment that there's a baby that was born a minute ago. That baby will enter a world of work that looks nothing like it does right now. The work that we are doing, the deepest work that we are doing, is to fundamentally shift the way we work so that this baby will arrive in a world of work that is prepared for him or her. We are not only planning for our current workforce, the people who are in our workforce right now, but we are planning for the student that's in the 11th grade that will graduate next year with the AI technology way more advanced than it is right now. You are planning for the kindergartner who's walking into kindergarten, who's walking in the door, and will enter a world of work that looks very different from it does right now. We are also planning for the student who is in college right now, who is a freshman, entering a freshman year this August, who will exit in 4 years with a completely different world of work than right now. So the work that you do is not just for the people in your organization, it is for the future of work. And we need to be very clear about what we are doing and why we are doing it. But there's another person that you're working for, another person, the invisible talent, the person who has sat in a desk in your organization for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years that no one has seen. No one has up leveled. No one has offered development to. The person is in a role that we're accustomed to having that person in that role, and we're accustomed to them being there. And so they are like fixture, they are like wallpaper, they are invisible to us. So the question I asked at the ATD conference is, who are the invisible people in your workforce? And how do we make sure that they do not remain invisible during the AI implementation? So I'm going to pause for 1 second. And I want you to put in the chat how this resonates for you, because this is a different view of talent development. This is not the view of let's just figure out how we write a prompt. This is not just how we figure out how we navigate AI. This is really the heart-centered work that we have to do around talent. But as we do that heart-centered work, we also need to make sure that we as talent development leaders do not become invisible. And that is it. And so someone asked in the chat, what if the invisible person doesn't want to grow? They don't have an option right now. It's up to us to convince them that growth is the only option. There is no other option. Because here's what I want to say to all of you. We look at people, the invisible people in our organization, the invisible ones. We say, oh, Margaret doesn't want to be a supervisor. She doesn't want to be a manager. She doesn't want to be any of those things. But what we haven't tapped into is what was Margaret's dream when she arrived in this work, and what was her dream for development, and what was her dream for growth. Up is not the only way. Her development or his development still needs to happen, even if they don't want to go up. Right? And so we have to really change the way we think about development and stop saying the person doesn't want to move up. That is not what development is. Development is talent resiliency. Development is talent resiliency. How do I make sure that this individual is resilient throughout their career with this organization? And what does that look like in terms of developing their skills? Right? And I use the terminology up is not the only way. There's actually a book written called Up is Not the Only Way. It was written by Bev Kay. And it's critical because sometimes we need to go back to the fundamental things and look at what we did fundamentally before there was even a computer in order for us to move forward. Thank you for participating in the chat. Yeah. So let's keep going. We know, and this is the ATD numbers, we know that 74% of talent leaders know that there's a current skills gap in their organization. 75% expect a future skills gap. 48% know that their leaders and team leaders and supervisors have a major skills gap themselves. And 58% of talent professionals says that recruiting and skills is the key for bringing people into the organization. But TD professionals rated soft skills as excellent in their organization. Only 11% rated it as excellent. So across the board, we have issues. Here's the buzzword that we're using. The buzzword is a skilled workforce. But we really have not defined what a skilled workforce is and how that really looks for everyone. So, what is it that we are supposed to be doing as talent development leaders? We are supposed to be the bridge between the company facing their skill shortage and equipping and making sure that the necessary skills are there for everyone. And so, as talent development, we sit in the middle of the ocean and under the bridge to make sure that the bridge gets created from one side to the next. This is our role. This is what we are supposed to do. The question is, how do we do it? How exactly do we do it? So there's a couple critical questions that we have to ask first. Is learning equal access or a gated pathway? That's the first question that we have to ask, right? And this is a question you can feel free to answer in the chat. Is learning equal access or a gated pathway? So let me explain the two. The employee can say, I want to be developed in the following way, and they have equal access to go get developed. Or do we wait for a manager or supervisor to point out that the employee needs development, and then only then do we offer development if the manager or supervisor decides to open the gate and let the person through? In the age of AI, we have to eliminate gated pathways. We have to make sure that gated pathways go away. Learning has to become democratized and equal access, meaning there is capability at every level in the organization for development. And equal access means no other human being makes a decision that a person cannot get equal access. Let me say something else to all of you. A lot of times you'll look at an individual, and the individual is sitting in a desk and they've been in that desk for, let's say, 15 years. And we say, oh, they don't want to be developed. They don't want anything. What we don't know is 15 years ago when they walked into the organization, how many times someone said no to them around development, how many times someone said no to them about a supervisor promotion, how many times someone turned the lights off for them so that they no longer feel empowered to ask for what they want. See, what we only see is Jane or John doesn't want development, or Jane or John doesn't want a supervisor role. What we don't see is a number of times someone told them no, and the no took away their zeal for opportunity. And so rather than put themselves at risk to hear another no, they just quietly sat in the desk that they're in. And we perceive that as they just want to stay in that role. They don't want to do anything else. That's the perception shift. And in order for us to change the way we think, we have to change that. So the second question in this series is, are we creating ceilings or springboards? Are we putting ceilings on people's opportunity, or are we creating springboards for them to move to where they need to be? In the age of AI, there can be no ceilings, because the ceiling is going to be blown out and all we're going to have is springboards. And the people who springboard will survive, and the people who don't springboard will not survive. And that's the reality of where we are. So I want to know in the chat, when it comes to AI, what things have you been thinking about? What is the gap for you as a talent development leader, or talent leader, or an HR leader? What is the gap for you? What have you been thinking a lot about? Enter that into the chat. I hear I'm such a loud person. I make mistakes often. Yeah, you know, as humans we make mistakes. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, I love sometimes learning is equal access, but not equally motivating. Yes, yes. Or opportunity for advancement, or to apply the acquired skills. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So the question is, what should we focus on? There's so many AI out there. Yep. I worry about people who don't want to adapt to technology. I just realized that the gap is that our people aren't quite sure about how and when to use AI. It's so new that they're not aware how to apply it. Excellent. I've been thinking about how to automate as much as possible in my role to minimize the funds required to manage programs. Absolutely. Ethical considerations around AI. How do we incorporate it into a business strategy ethically? On bias, how can we give direction to the team when we ourselves are new to AI? That is huge. Thank you for sharing that. We need to neutralize the fear around the use of AI and how to make it effective and applicable for different roles. Yes. Can we really train AI agents? Absolutely. These are great things to be thinking about. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. Timing, knowing more about opportunities. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Keep putting those into the chat. And we're going to save the chat, and in a post presentation, I will prepare some answers to the questions that you're putting into the chat for sure. So the next question that I want to ask is just an answer. I'm trying to solve the following challenges. Put the challenges you're trying to solve into the chat as well. And what we're going to do is gather all of these and create sort of a recap for this program for all of you that attended so that you have something to work with as you're going through. So let's keep going in the essence of time. Okay. All right. So learning is the tool that fuels possibilities. Seeing what's possible is what drives learning. We have to help people see what's possible, right? We have to help them see what's possible. And by doing that, we do also have to check the fear. And so what I've been recommending to my clients is rather than saying we need to implement AI training, we need to do a series of programs around how to alleviate the fear that AI is coming to take your job. We need to address that big, gigantic elephant in the room. And I'm going to give you a cheat sheet on how to have that discussion, how to have that talk with people. All right. So there are 5 roles that we have to play as we continue to move through the AI implementation process. We as talent development leaders need to weave in a culture of possibilities. Right now, everything is uncertain, but we have to give people a culture that something is possible for them within the culture of everything is happening so fast. People want to know what's possible for them. They have an innate hierarchical need to belong, to feel that there's purpose, to feel that they are doing work that matters, to feel that they are connected to the work that they are doing. And so there are 5 critical roles that we must play as talent development leaders. The first role is as a visionary cultivator. We have to be able to help people envision potential while enabling them to grow. And growth doesn't have to be this big thing that we expect. Growth can be tiny, incremental. I think oftentimes as talent development leaders, we want this big impact, this big thing. We want them to go from here to here. But maybe if they take a tiny step, that is enabling that growth. So we have to be visionary cultivator, meaning we paint the vision and we help people see the vision. And I'm going to go through each one of these and how the role applies. We have to be empowering coaches, which means we unlock motivation to foster ownership. We motivate people to take ownership for their development. And so we have to look at everything we do through the lens of how do I unlock motivation and empower ownership with what I'm doing? Okay. And so the next thing is we have to be inclusive innovation catalysts, meaning we have to ignite inclusion, inspire creativity and innovation at the same time. We have to say who's included, who's not included, how do we help everything to be more creative, and then how do we bring in the innovation? We have to be collaborative builders, which means that we connect individuals to amplify impact. And the last thing that we have to be in this new age of AI, in the culture of possibilities, is we have to become boundary pushers. We have to push the boundary and the limits that people have put on themselves to accelerate their development. So these are five critical roles. And I want us now to unpack each one of them. Okay, so let's unpack. Put your comments in the comments. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A. Casey and I will come back in a few and we will answer any questions you have. All right, so let's go through the first one, the visionary cultivator. We have to be able to envision potential to enable growth. So a person who typically didn't have potential, or we didn't see their potential, or no one else saw their potential, we have to build for potential. We can't build just to build content or to build a learning pathway. We have to build for potential to enable growth. And if we're building for potential to enable growth, we occupy five specific roles. We transform the organization into a laboratory for continuous growth and possibility. We architect learning around an ecosystem that nurtures silent talent, meaning the people who are silent, into future ready capabilities. So if they are silent, we want to give them a voice so that they can go into this future ready capability. We have to align the individual aspiration or reignite the individual aspiration with emerging organization frontiers. We have to challenge traditional norms of employee potential and see boundless possibilities for individuals. We have to be able to balance the future focused development with present organizations' needs and remove the latter and create interconnected pathways. So, as a visionary cultivator, we are transforming, we are architecting, we are aligning, we're challenging, we're balancing. That's what we're doing in the first lever of the five roles that we play. The second lever of the role is that we become empowering coaches, which means we unlock motivation to foster ownership. To do that, there are again five critical pieces of coaching. We think of coaching traditionally. I'm going to get you a coach is going to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about us seeing potential, purpose, possibility in individuals. And so if we're going to be empowering coaches inside of a culture of possibilities, then we are going to be a catalyst. We're going to shift from knowledge consumption to knowledge creation and self-directed learning. We're going to give people their pathway. Everything will be clear. AI is coming. Here are 3 skills you need to learn. And here's the skill map that we've given you. And we're going to give you the support to make sure that you learn those 3 skills. And this is why those 3 skills are important. We're going to dismantle the hierarchy of knowledge positioning, meaning learners as architect of their own development. We're going to talk to people. We're going to engage with them. We're not going to build in a silo. We're not going to be order takers, which is what I said to the ATD group. When I was standing on the main stage at ATD and talking to the entire attendees that attended ATD, I said, we cannot be order takers. We have to be architects of people's development. And so we have to cultivate an environment where intrinsic motivation and personal accountability flourishes. We have to tap into what motivates people, not just us designing and offering them a course or a program. What is going to motivate them to take it? And speak in the language of motivation. Let me give you an example. And I have a cheat sheet, as I said, I'm going to share here with all of you. One of the things that we'll say is we are implementing AI for the future of work. If I'm making $15 an hour and I'm a customer service rep in your organization, what I hear is you're about to take my job and I can't feed my children. It's the way that we talk about what we are doing that people hear. And if we're going to be empowering coaches, we have to talk about AI differently than we do right now. We have to transform learning from a prescribed journey into a self directed expedition of discovery. Tell me what you want to learn that you don't know right now, rather than us giving them a journey to go on. Tell me what intrigues you. Let me give you an example of what AI does. What intrigues you about that? Rather than us building and then waiting for people to go on this prescribed journey. We have to create a balance between individual growth and collective organization development. How does the individual need to grow to meet the organization's needs? And we have to be honest when we're talking about AI. We have to be able to bucket people immediately. This is a person that's going to need reskilling. This is a person that's going to need upskilling. This is a person that is way underskilled. This is a person that has a learning disability that's inside of your organization that's been able to function quite well. And now, because we're doing AI implementation, their learning disability has kicked in and they're not going to be able to function based on what we are building. That's what I'm asking you to see, a different lens. We have to become innovation catalysts and ignite inclusion to inspire innovation, which means that we cultivate an innovation ecosystem where diversity becomes a driving force of creativity. The word diversity has been weaponized, but when I say diversity in this context, what I'm saying is we need to put people who would ordinarily not be together together so that they can create cross-system conversations around AI. We have to amplify unheard voices, unseen perspectives, and transform differences into sources of breakthrough. We have to weave inclusivity into the fabric of learning and organizational culture. Who is going to be left behind and what do they need to be successful? Let me say that again. Who is going to be left behind and what do they need to be successful? We have to foster an environment where innovative ideas emerge from all levels and all backgrounds. And in order for that to happen, to become innovation catalysts, we have to put people together who would not normally be together. So for example, if you have a factory operation, the people in your factories who are doing the menial work, that is what we consider, the rote work, the ongoing work, they're just generating the product that we want to build. They just screw a screw in to a widget board. Okay, great. But they had a dream at some point. And so how do we bring them together with the senior leaders who are outside? Okay. How do we foster and balance this innovation? And balancing it, meaning we celebrate diversity by recognizing the individual's holistic capabilities, which is critical. The next role that we occupy is one of collaborative ecosystem builder, which means that we connect individuals to amplify impact. So to do that, again, we occupy some very specific roles when we are in collaboration from the talent development lens. We evolve the organization into a living, learning entity capable of adaptation and innovation, which means there's no person in your building, in your organization that is on your payroll that does not get rapid learning development. No one that comes to talent development and asks for something can decide, this is only for these kinds of people. The question then becomes, who else can this benefit? And how do we repurpose it so that it benefits everyone? We orchestrate synergies of collective intelligence to tackle complex systemic challenges. And to do that, we are there to create synergies across departments and ecosystems. The silos that exist today cannot continue to exist in the AI operative world, right? The sales team can't hate the marketing team, can't hate the customer service team, can't hate the account executives, can't hate HR or talent. Because guess what? The AI is coming for all of us. And so if we are sitting in this mire of territorial expectations where we have these territories that we want to guard, Here's an example. A lot of times we know we have knowledge that we don't want to share. And we don't want to share that knowledge because we're insecure about our current role. And we feel that if we share the knowledge across the board to everyone, someone is going to miss out or someone is going to know more than we know. Our leaders and our managers, and a lot of times our supervisors, operate in this knowledge to know space. There's only so much knowledge, and I don't want everyone to know the knowledge. We have to dissolve those traditional boundaries to create a fluid, interconnected learning organism. And we have to dissolve it by being collective ecosystem builders. When you think about talent development in the age of AI, we have to say, what are the silos that currently exist and how do we dissolve them? How do we break them free? How do we cut them up into little tiny pieces and make them disappear? We have to harmonize individual strengths to amplify the overall organization impact. That means that we have to be able to break down any silos and see individual strength. And we cannot allow managers to hoard information because any information they're hoarding is either going to stop us from implementing the AI capability effectively. And if they are subject matter experts but only want to divulge a part of their subject matter, then they are going to become a disruptor to any AI implementation that occurs. And we have to foster collaboration where by and preserve space for individual contributors and for them to operate in their zone of genius. So I want to stop right here for a second and I want to ask what questions you have, and I'm going to go into the chat and sort of scroll back and look at what you've been putting in. Um, yeah, um, I feel like I'm doing this. How to engage deskless workers into the learning process. Yeah, that's a great lens. Traditional training models, not just always practical for the population. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. They could listen to training on headphones, for example. They could be, one of the things is we expect to build slides and we expect to build things like that. But we could create a podcast. Um, uh, Google has a AI that creates a podcast. I think it's called Notebook, right? We could go into Notebook and create mini podcasts. So you put in your information and it creates a podcast, and then we create that podcast for people who are frontline workers to listen to, and they are also learning at the same time. And then if they want to go further, then they can raise their hands and say, I want to learn more about this particular thing. Um, um, Great points about not being order takers. Yeah. Typical workforce doesn't have a positive outlook when talking about training in the organization. I think we need to add different modalities to training delivery without really calling it training. Absolutely. Someone had to leave. Yeah. Interesting approach. Yes. Thank you for that feedback. Adding some modalities to offer the pull and push mentality, like video playlists, audio podcasts, organization intranet, hub systems. Yes. We also have to look at does the person have the level of internet access in their home that they have at work? And how can we make sure that we create learning at the most microscopic level that has no barrier to entry? It's critical. Um,
Margaret, Jean had a good question she dropped in the Q&A too. She said, how would you handle the I just don't have time to learn or I have too much to do?
mhm. I think one of the critical pieces is explaining to um, any individual that says that what that means. And so before we make a judgment about what they've said, ask them to define what that really means. Because they could say, I'm a mom and I have 3 children at home. And by the time I get to work, there's just no space in my head to occupy anything else. Or it could be I'm a caregiver, or it could be any number of things, or I'm taking a college course, and boy, this is an additional thing for me to do. I think rather than taking the surface level answer that people give us, we need to dive in a little bit more and use our coaching skills to say, tell me a little bit more about that. And then help them walk them through their personal blocks that they have around development. But here's a critical thing, because as talent development leaders, we need people out in our ecosystem doing the work for us. One of the critical steps that we have to take is training managers and leaders and supervisors and team leaders how to get people to participate in learning, right? And yes, I'll give you an example. You said that, there are too many deadlines. Let me give you an example. When I started in learning and development, I did safety training, meaning I went into organizations to train them about risk management and safety. And one of the critical reasons why I went into those organizations is because they had had a serious accident. An employee had either been critically injured or had been severely injured. And the insurance company said, Margaret, go out there and run a series of training programs so that these people understand the importance of what is going on. And it never ceased to amaze me that a manager or supervisor would say, we only have 5 minutes. Give me what you need in 5 minutes. Tell me that the employee needs to learn how to use this saw in 5 minutes or less so that they can go back on the line. And I finally had to say to a supervisor one day, what is more important, returning this employee to their family in one piece or sending them home in another way? So we have to retool the blocks and the resistance, because the AI process is going to force us to have different conversations with people. You have too many deadlines. Can we offer you some training around scheduling or task management or something else so that it frees up your time a bit so that you can participate in what we need you to participate in? Or tell me what that looks like. How can I help you reorganize your deadline so that you have an hour that you can devote every week to this? We have to push back on people immediately. And we have to leverage the AI, I agree. We have to leverage the AI's benefit to automate, but also to lower the barrier to entry, meaning rather than doing something long, we do something short. Well, I tell you, I went to an event last week, and I had to look at my own content. It was a micro event program, and when I went to that micro event program, they talked about how to create micro learning, how to create learning that's 2 minutes or less. And I tell you, I personally, as a talent development leader and an SME in my world, I resisted that. I thought, you know what, you need that hour. I need every second of that hour, and I need you sitting here, and I need you participating. And so I sat through this 2 hour program on micro learning. And for the first time, I said to myself, they don't need all that information. So we have to look back and say, I only need an hour a week of your time, which means I only need like 15 minutes a day for 4 days. Yeah. So thank you for asking that question and the follow up. So the last one is boundary pusher, which means that we challenge the limits around accelerated development. We help workforce understand what they're capable of. Sometimes people don't know what they're capable of, but I honestly think that we need to start with our leaders. We need to change the way they think first, right? Um, we need to become experts at helping people see their capability and thriving in ambiguity and unprecedented challenges. We have to get people. So here's the thing that just came to me. There's a lot of people in your organization who automatically resist change. Um, I could tell you I have several friends and people that I know who you say to them, "Oh my gosh, we need to go do something different." And they say, "No, no, no, I don't want to do that." Right? So sometimes where we try to go straight into the training, we have to pre-train, which means in the pre-training, we have to address the resistance. I don't want to change. Everything that we are doing right now in talent development, I would say to all of you that you need to go back to your change management principles, ADCAR, for example, or the Williams change models. We need to go back to those change models and drop what we're doing in our organization into these change models. And we need to look at maybe SOAR, strength, opportunities, what's going to be realistic, and look at those other things. Because before we start creating, because we tend to create the end product, but we don't create the disruptor product, which is all the things that they're going to say no to. So we have to create transformation where challenges become catalysts to skills development. We have to redefine the limits of human capability, treating perceived boundaries as innovation for growth. We have to accelerate development through carefully collaborated stretch assignments to support their development, right? We have to be resilient while being mindful of potential burnout and stress. So, this is all of the 5 roles that we have to play in talent development. I created an AI conversation starter for TD leaders. You can scan the QR code and download it from our website, or I will actually send it, um, and we will add that either. So, either way, you'll get it, right? Um, and you will get this. It is a 4-page document that talks about how do we have executive conversation, how do I have team conversation, how do we have internal stakeholder conversations, how do we have these conversations at every single level as a conversation starter for talent leaders. What are some of the questions that we need to be asking and utilizing in our AI implementation? So let's keep going. As we wrap up, the question that we have to ask is, can your employees see what's possible for them, right? And can your leaders see what's possible for them? Two lens, right? Two lens. We have to become architects of what's possible. And architects of what's possible takes our 5 roles and puts us into this architect of what's possible. It means that we see potential, opportunity, we see skills, we see self assessment, we see inclusivity, we could see boundaries, we could see leadership, we could see our leaders and our leadership clearly, and we can see empowerment. So I'm going to go through a set of rapid fire questions that will take us to the end of the program. And please put your questions in. I'm going to leave enough time to answer them. For possibilities, the P in possibilities is potential. What untapped potential lies dormant in your organization? And can anyone be curious here? Meaning, can they be curious about potential? How do we get them to see potential? Opportunities. Are we creating pathways or roadblocks to advancement? And which talent gets nurtured and which ones don't? And we need to critically look at the opportunity. So the O in possibility is impossible is opportunity. The S in possible, the first S, is skills. How are we bridging the gap between current skills and future needs? Again, we are architects of what's possible. Self-awareness is the second S in possible. How deeply do our employees truly understand their strengths and areas for growth? People have lost touch with their own strength. We tend to only look at strength in our executives and our leader-ready folks. Our frontline employees need to tap into their strength in order to see their areas for growth. It's not that they don't want, it's that they've forgotten how. The I in possible is in inclusive innovation. Does every voice in our organization feel heard and valued? Curiosity leads to innovation, and innovation requires inclusivity. As we implement innovation, we have to think of possible and we have to lean into the I in terms of inclusive innovation. Who is going to be left behind and how do we bring them forward? Boundaries. How are we challenging our employees to step beyond their comfort zone? So the B in possible is boundaries. How do we get them to see beyond the boundary that is self-created and organizationally created and leadership created? Boundaries that people have where they sit in their comfort zone are partly their own comfort zone, but partly the comfort zone that's been created by the organization over the length and breadth of their employment. When you think of possible, the L in possible is leadership. What can you do to empower everyone to inspire, influence, and drive positive change? We in talent development are here to do possible work. Right now, we don't know what's possible, but we are leaning in to the possibilities that AI will bring to our organization and even to our own role. And we're helping people see that. So the final one is E, the possible. How are we empowering employees to take charge of their own growth? And if we see this as our purpose, our purpose is what's possible. If we see that, then we see the empowerment tone. And we don't let anything that we've thought about prior cloud our vision for that individual. Whatever they've said in the past doesn't apply today. Whatever resistance they created before now doesn't apply today. I've created a document, which is also, it's the same QR code that I shared before. I created this because I think we are having wrong conversations. And I'm giving this away to all TD leaders. What we say and what employees hear is two completely different things. We say exciting AI opportunities. The employee hears my job is being eliminated and they're excited about it. You're excited that my job is going to be eliminated. There was a guy on LinkedIn this week. He is a marketing director for an organization, and he posted on LinkedIn that he had implemented AI agents and fired his entire marketing team of 200 people, and he thought it was funny. And he posted it, and he had 600 or 700 comments where people thought it was funny as well. So we have to communicate as talent development leaders differently. These are 15 things that we say about AI and what the employee hears and what we should say instead. This is the inclusivity journey of speaking about AI in our organization. I'm happy to share this with you. So finally, if you have any questions, I'm going to come back and check the chat. I thank all of you for participating today. I find it hard to wrap my head around what the future needs when it comes to AI's evolution. It's moving so quickly. So let me speak to you for a second. We don't have to move at the speed of light. I want you to sit in that for a second. We do not have to move at the speed of light. We have to move at the speed that is designed for us. The technology is not controlling us. We are controlling the technology. Let me say that again to all of you. We are controlling the technology. Possible means that we redefine talent development as the art of unlocking the infinite human capability, turning limitations into launch pads for extraordinary achievement. We are the possible, not the AI. We are the possible, right? So, how will you architect a future where every individual's potential becomes a catalyst for organization transformation? And this is a bold question that I leave you with. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I write on Substack because, and also on LinkedIn, I post an article almost every 2 days on LinkedIn about AI and talent development. This is my email address. Feel free to reach out to me. I have founded the Inclusion Learning Lab, and I'm on LinkedIn every hour of every day almost. And so I invite you to stay connected to me. Outside of this, please stay connected. So I'm going to stop sharing if everyone's good, and I'm going to just open this up for the last couple minutes. We have 4 minutes left. Thank you for all of the great comments and how do we help talent that generally lacks skills and needs to catch up with their skills? Those are our unskilled workers. And so we really have to have conversations with them. Let me stop the share and come back to Casey and I together. We have to look at the unskilled workforce and people who have been able to fly under the radar, who can pretend that they have skills because they're quick learners. And so some of the things that we are doing is we have to be able to not allow people to fly under the radar, to see their unskilledness as a superpower to skill them. I hope that helps you. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Cahoots to encourage people to review the recording. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Yeah. So I hope that this resonated for you. I want to thank ELB Learning for creating this wonderful space for us to have this dialogue and to put together um, a program that's not the normal program. You know, typically we go to things and it's like AI, 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 do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. This is not. I think we as talent development leaders are being disrupted. I did 2 sessions at ATD, one on the main stage and one around how do we create springboards, not ceilings, was the main stage one. But I also talked about us losing our jobs to AI, right? And I wrote, if you're a member of ATD, I wrote an article it was the cover of the TD magazine called Feeling Stuck, and it has a little turtle on it. It was the May edition of TD magazine. And I wrote an article in there detailing how we need to manage our careers in the age of AI. Because just as much as we're putting the oxygen mask on the company, we have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves at the same time. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Margaret. Just such a insightful, um, sobering, and compassionate take on this topic. So we appreciate you so much. And I think all of the attendees, such wonderful, insightful, compassionate comments there too. A lot of knowledge sharing going on. So we appreciate you so much. Again, we'll send a link of the recording next week, probably around Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll include that leave behind document that Margaret shared earlier too. So don't worry about trying to find that if you missed that QR code. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Margaret. We appreciate you so much. And we'll
Thank you.
catch you guys at the next one.